are Belley Fitness. And right now I'm going to show you all one of my favorite dishes to make. It is a lamb meatloaf. So basically, as you could probably guesstimate, it includes ground lamb, and I use a host of other ingredients I like green pepper, roasted red peppers, pitted Kalamata olives, sea salt, brown pepper, cinnamon, thyme, whole mix of things. Onion's good. So here's what we make. First, I use ground-fed, grass-fed, ground New Zealand lamb. It's only New Zealand because I got it at Whole Foods. But it's not too bad, it's like $6 a pound. At least it's grass-fed, so it's higher in omega-3 fatty acids or good fats, and it's just a better meat product to have. As well as it's just tastier. So I'm going to dump the ground lamb into the bowl. Roll this over here. Alright. I'll actually place the bowl on top of the oven. I also like to use roasted red peppers. I find that they just a little more flavorful. They help the lamb a little better. I'm just going to put this down, just kind of dry out the roasted red peppers a little bit, as I hadn't pre-dried them. These are organic roasted red peppers. I actually got them from Whole Foods as well. So I'll put that to the side over here. And while these are drying out, I will also begin to chop my green pepper. Now, you can use any kind of mix of peppers or vegetables or whatnot for yours. I prefer to use these ones because, I don't know, I find that they just taste crunchier and a little better than most of the others. I mean, you could put celery in here, you could put carrots, whatever you choose. But these are the items I like the most. So I'm going to use this rough cut instead. And again, not going too crazy, just kind of cutting, slicing, and they're kind of cubed, small palms. Now you really can't see them with this camera angle, but basically, you can see this, but that's kind of the cut, pretty blocky. Alright, next I'm going to start chopping up on my roasted red pepper. It's pretty good now, so, and because it's actually been soaking in the water, it's going to cut real easy. And that's good. And I'm actually going to leave these in strips because I don't actually want these to get too small and kind of wilt away, because you're going to find that with this ground lamb that it's actually going to get very, very, very oily because it's lamb. So periodically I will have to drain the fat from the dish, from the meatloaf or the loaf pan. And again, just kind of leaving this really thick, long. We'll mix in pretty good. Alright, just the last one. Turn it this way. I'll do one smaller cut. Alright. I'm going to tell you, this is awesome. There's a couple of tricks I use that you might not find at other restaurants or on other websites, but a couple things I like to do. Alright, next, some onion. So I'm chopping up the onion. This I'm probably going to go kind of small, so not too bad. So these I'm actually dicing pretty small. I cut them in half, then just kind of half it again. The rest here, I'll just rough chop again. Cool. It's a lot of onion. I'm actually doing this one easier. Pull this out to the side and slide in. So you can see a pretty good mix now of these items going together. Looks pretty cool. Next, I like to throw in some Kalamata olives because I love the taste of Kalamata olives. You could use black olives if you wanted. I prefer these are organic. Again, treat everything. You try to eat everything here at this house organic as much as possible. So, just gonna put these down here, just about a handful out of the bin. And again, these are already pitted, which is nice. So I'm just gonna give these a rough chop because I want to leave them pretty much whole so you can actually find them and taste them in the mix. So that's pretty rough chop there. Drop those in. I'm going to do a bunch more. I really, really like Kalamata olives. They're really, really good. Very salty. So that you have to keep in mind as well. With a very salty olive, if you put too much salt into the mix, the loaf is going to taste horrible. It might not even be palatable. So you have to be somewhat careful, because we're also going to be using, which you'll see over here, is feta cheese. And actually this is, again, I bought this at Whole Foods. This is a no antibiotic, no growth hormones. So, farmhouse feta crumbles, made in Maine, fabulous New England. So, you can see, oh, it smells so good. But, I'm just going to dump this in too. It's got an 8-ounce package. It's fairly cheap, $4 for the 8 ounces. That thing went flying. Or actually, it's 4 ounces. I'm sorry, 4 ounces, a quarter of a pound. But now this is starting to look really good. Like this is all, God, these ingredients are incredible. And so what I'm also going to throw in here is that to dry my little cutting board area. I'm going to do this, usually I use baby spinach, but I happen not to have any baby spinach in the fridge right now, so I'm going with arugula. Because I really like arugula. And it was in there, and it's going to add a cool little flavor. And this also is going to kind of rough chop, because this is going to wilt. So we don't have to really get too crazy with that. It's going to be really fun to mix together. I have 2 pounds, by the way, 2 pounds of ground beef, ground lamb for all I'm doing here. That grass fed. There. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting as well. I'm going to use an organic egg, and just going to put this over here. 1 organic egg cracked into the mix. Actually, we'll stick with 1 at first. If it's too saucy, then we know 1's enough. But if it's not enough, then I won't hesitate to throw in, say, another, egg, if it doesn't seem like the mix is holding too well. And this is a little trick I kind of do, that I kind of like. I do a mix of breadcrumbs and like light brown sugar. It smells quite good. It's actually kind of a cool little trick I like to employ. Gives a little bit of sweet, but really interesting. Gives it a really cool dynamic flavor. Lots of flavor in this. So they pop, And again, I'm using these very tiny, not much of anything at all. Actually, move the eggs. Use my little cloth, wipe up. Same paper towel I used earlier. You can see too, this is a very easy pick up, easy clean. There's not really much getting left behind. Alright, now, ground time. I don't know, quite a bit. Maybe a couple teas, maybe a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half. I'm going to add in some cinnamon. Now I like the grinders for the cinnamon. I don't know if you ever had cinnamon on feta or cinnamon with much of any kind of salad, but it's absolutely delicious. And see, for now, we'll use this for that because I'm going to make a little base sauce that goes on top later. Some ground pepper. Sea salt, again, I'm going to hold off on the sea salt, just for now. I'm going to actually put that into the base sauce that goes on top. And here's another little trick I use. I love Stonewall Kitchen. They have an amazing line of jams and preserves and chutneys. This is the New England cranberry relish. And cranberries and lamb, cranberry relish, cranberry chutney on top of, like, if you actually make lamb chops and pork, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So this is going to give it a really cool pop flavor to my meatloaf, which makes it very unique. I'm just going to get a spoon over here. Spoon out some of this. And I'm only going to put a little bit in because I'm actually reserving the rest for the top spread. So I don't want to use the whole jar, but to I want to use a bunch of this jar. So I got about half the jar left. I'm going to reserve that for the rest of it. Oh my god, it's just so good even by itself. Absolutely delicious to eat. Now this is the fun part. This is where we get our hands dirty, get inside, and mix it all up. So you can see, big bowl, big ingredients. This is a large bowl, very large bowl. And I'm just going to dig in, just start mixing. And this is going to be really, really fun. We got a lot of vegetables here, a lot of the egg to help pull it all together. Brown lamb. And again, I usually go grass-fed and organic as much as possible when making dishes. You literally are what you eat. So if you eat crappy products, you're gonna feel like crap. You're gonna feel very lethargic, very run down. I mean, a lot of people look for the bang for the buck, you know, the great value, the extra saving. Some things it's worth it. You know, household products, sure. But I mean, if you're gonna be storing things, you know, and if you're gonna be eating and digesting, whatever you're putting into your body, you should absolutely make sure that it's of the highest quality you can afford or get away with. Here at our house, we actually eat a lot of organic. Pretty much everything's organic. To the bananas, the blueberries, you know, cottage cheese, organic cottage cheese, organic whole milk for the kids. The kids always have organic whole milk, that's for certain. We do not feed them traditional, you know, what you'd buy at your local convenience store, milk. Maybe all of our meats are usually grass-fed, or our chickens are always organic. You know, everything's free range. Makes a huge difference, and we feel the difference. I mean, we can feel it. If we usually give ourselves a couple cheat days a week, and by the second cheat day, we're tired of eating most processed foods or other items, because once you start eating cleaner, it really throws everything off, like in the sense of, like throws things off in a good way. Like you cannot palate normal foods that you'd buy at a grocery store anymore. It's really interesting. But you know, growing up as a kid, your whole life you get stuck to a certain kind of behavior of eating, and that's what you know is normal. Alright, so now my hands are all gooey. Fun. And I've already have my oven here preheated to 375 degrees. Some recipes you'll see in meatloafs call for 325, you know, but with something like this, I find the hotter the better, because it does cook, takes so long to cook. This will take about an hour to cook. It might even take a little bit more time. It might take an hour, hour and a half, depending on your oven and how tentative you are to the loaf and actually continually draining it. So I'm going to rinse off my hands for a second so I can show you this. Alright. Drop that guy in there. Now this is our loaf. Pretty snazzy. This thing is absolutely delicious. I'm just going to now transfer this into my baking dish. And you can see it's kind of soupy. I have this choice. It smells pretty damn good though. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. But if I wanted to, I could actually add more mix in. That would dry it out faster, obviously. And that's my dog. Hey, good boy. All right, I'm going to make the transfer into this, and then from here into our oven. So, actually before I do that, I'm going to rip off my tin foil on you. Just because once my hands get kind of saucy, I'll just leave them saucy, right? All right, let's rewash again. Alright, this thing is pretty soupy. So I'm going to pat that in there. Pretty good. And again, you really don't need much for like oil or anything in here, because this thing is gonna, it's pretty wet, as you can already tell. It's a pretty wet little meatloaf, so I'm just gonna kind of push in the edges a little bit though. Give it that nice little loaf appearance. Alright, so again, this is a 2-pound ground lamb with a host of other foods into this 9x5 meatloaf, or bacon loaf, what do we want to call it, loaf pan. Alright, so voila, that is our loaf in the loaf pan. Next, I will put this over the top, just loose. Open up our oven, shove this bad boy in there, and we'll let the games begin. Hopefully about an hour or so. We'll continue to check it. I'll show you what it's like to check it, how oily it'll get, and we'll drain it into the sink, so you get a good idea. But again, very quick, very easy. That might have taken, if I weren't talking to a camera, 10-12 minutes to do with my own, and it's good to go. Now you just kind of sit and wait. And a cool little technique that we do in this house, which you might like to do as well, we tend to throw sweet potatoes or yams. Usually we get like the organic yams, organic sweet potatoes. We throw them into the oven like during this time period. If we're gonna cook something for longer than say 30-40 minutes, we're very efficient in this house, and we'll cook yams and sweet potatoes, and then when we're done, we just pull them out and we set them aside to cool. And throughout the week, at least once a day, we have a really healthy, nutritious snack, you know, full of minerals and vitamins. And we just try to maximize, you know, the oven time especially, you know, so we don't waste too much energy. All right. Okay, so about right now, our meatloaf has been in the, or our lamb loaf, I should say, has been. Okay, so right now our lamb loaf has been in the oven at 375 for about 27 minutes, 25 minutes, but we're halfway through the cooking process. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to show you what it looks like with the water residual coming out of the feta and coming out of the lamb, the oils. What it looks like, I'm going to drain it, put it back in. So you can see from this point just how soupy that is. See, you can barely even see the bottom. And before I drain this, you should know that in every house you should have some sort of a container that captures your grease. We tend to use this, you know, milk jug. But anyway, you don't want to pour grease down your drain. Last thing you want to do. Could really cause problems with the septic, cleaning, everything, pipes, Drano. You don't want to get into all that liquid plumber stuff. So I'm just going to grab this, put it in the sink, uncap it, bring that over, drain in, put it back in. And I don't think you can probably hear the faucet, but I always run the faucet just a little bit, just for any spillover that happens. It'll help clean out whatever's there, so it doesn't sit in the bottom of your sink. Very dry, not much water. Still some come out the sides, but it's not as much as it should be. All right, so I'm going to pop this bad boy back in the oven. Get this here.